We are very fortunate today to have with us a very special friend and person who has devoted his life and knowledge and energy to defend the human rights of the Palestinians and to protect the environment within which they live. And we're going to have a conversation, a general one, but we will focus basically and fundamentally on the West Bank and the challenges and difficulties and the travesties that they have been visited with. Mazin is a scholar, a environmentalist scholar, a biologist in education, and he has a number of books and studies, and he has taught at and lectured at Yale, at University of Tennessee, at Duke University, many other universities. And his publications are well known. Among the most important ones is Popular Resistance in Palestine, Sharing the Land of Canaan, and the Mammals of the Holy Land. But he has really a large number of publications, so I would take the whole hour maybe discussing these things or naming them. Welcome to the Arabic Hour, Mazin. It's so nice.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's so nice to see you. I will focus basically and give you a chance first to describe shortly, I mean, as brief as you can, what are you doing now and how you feel about the challenges that our people are facing in Palestine, particularly in the West Bank?
Ever since I came back from the United States in 2008, I've been a full-time volunteer basically in Palestine, working in areas like human rights, biodiversity, conservation, agriculture, food sovereignty, and so forth. This intensified since 2014 when we founded the Palestine Institute for Biodiversity and Sustainability at Bethlehem University. This is an institute that's focused on sustainable human and natural communities. And I'm basically a full-time volunteer here 7 days a week, 15 hours a day. And this has been the best decision of my life, is to invest in this institution. I donated much of my retirement funds towards the success of this institute on the ground. So that's basically what I'm spending most of my time on, giving talks. This is like my fifth talk today only. And to various audiences, interviews with TVs, but also work on the ground. My favorite activity is actually working with children and working in the garden, community garden and botanic garden here. And working with children always gives us a lot of inspiration and success here.
Thank you. That's very brief. Let me say that you are also the founder and director of the Museum of Natural History in Palestine. So you have many contributions you've made. What, in your opinion, is today's most difficult challenge that you are facing in the West Bank?
Well, I would say our challenges are part of the global challenges. There is a global risk now, of course, of a global war, nuclear war, and the global risk of climate change and habitat destruction and pollution and invasive species and overexploitation of resources. Our challenges are many, and these are global challenges. They're exacerbated locally because of colonialism and the ecocide and the genocide and the medicide and the scholasticide that the Zionist movement has inflicted upon us, destroying people, destroying nature, destroying our agricultural fields, destroying our universities and our hospitals, and our, killing journalists even. we can say even veriticide, destruction of the truth. These are all challenges that we face. We could spend hours talking about the challenges. We can talk about some of them if you want, like the ecocide, the destruction of our environment, which is not usually talked about when they talk about what's happening in Palestine. Even among activists, they focus on the killing of people, direct killing of people. But I can assure you there are more people dying in Gaza today because of the medicide and the ecocide rather than by direct Israeli bombing and shooting. As we speak today, more people are dying because of malnutrition and because of diseases in Gaza and because of the destruction of the environment in Gaza. So these are challenges we face as Palestinians that are part of the global challenges, but also that are exacerbated by the colonial system that we face in Palestine. And of course, I could talk more specifically about the West Bank if you want, and the challenges in the West Bank if you want, but I'm happy to address these challenges. More importantly, also, we should talk maybe at the end about what we are doing and what people can do to help address these challenges that are both global and local challenges.
Absolutely. And especially, what would you suggest that we help? But one of the most distinguishing and distinctive, actions that you are taking, and you have really mentioned it, that this apartheid regime, the genocide regime, is not only killing people, but killing the environment, the very basis of life that the environment can sustain in the area. What would you think be the best course that we people who are outside can be of help to what you are doing and to the efforts that you are putting?
Well, I think, already hundreds of millions of people are acting around the world, and we are very grateful for this global uprising, global intifada that's happening. I would say, people need to educate themselves. Number one is people need to educate themselves about the situation more. Even among activists, as I said earlier, many activists know about the killing of Palestinian children and women and destruction of buildings, but they don't know enough about the destruction of the environment. So they need to educate themselves about the destruction of the environment. For example, how Israel uprooted millions of Palestinian trees, both domestic trees and wild trees, how they planted only one kind of tree, pine trees, which are a monoculture that destroyed our biological diversity here. And these trees, or pine trees that they planted, actually are susceptible to fires, and that's why we have problem environmentally also. They need to educate themselves about how Israel dried up the wetlands of the Hula area and ethnically cleansed these wetlands of the local people, but also the drying up of the wetlands resulted in disappearance of 219 species in those areas. They can educate themselves about how the Zionist regime diverted the waters of the Jordan River basin. So the Jordan River, which used to flow at 1,350 million cubic meters per year, now flows at only 20 million cubic meters per year. It's a polluted stream. Basically, it's no longer a river. If they educate themselves about all of these things and many, many more, like the destruction of agricultural fields in Gaza, then they have the tools to do advocacy and do education that's more effective in terms of advocacy among populations, whether in the United States or Western countries in general, or Eastern countries, or even among ourselves, among Arabs, among Palestinians. If we are educated, we can be better advocates. So I say that the education is the first and most important thing. And always knowledge is power. Once you get knowledge, then you know how to act. You don't have to have me tell you how to act. Also people act in their own interests, basically. So I think, if, for example, if somebody who's a musician, certainly they can act by developing music for resistance. Somebody who's a good writer can develop writing. Somebody who is interested in politics and advocacy can develop lobbying groups. And we know Arab Americans are developing lobbies, for example, that are becoming more effective, like with, Rashida Tlaib and those people. So everybody can act in their sphere of things. And I act in my sphere of things, which is, the biodiversity and the children education about nature. And so that's my interest. So why not act in my own interest to work with children and so forth? So everybody can do things that are related to their interest. But as I said, the first and most important, in my humble opinion, is to acquire knowledge so that you do the best activism that based on knowledge, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel in many areas if you get to know the people.
Yeah, but Mazin, you should be happy to know that your efforts are not lost, and there are major, fundamental. I like the way you described it, intifada, in the sense that there is a major structural change in the way people relate to the Palestinian question. The last Gallup poll that just happened very recently shows that there are more Americans sympathizing, supporting the Palestinians than the Israelis. This has never been the case. And you know that there are 152 countries out of the 195 countries in the UN that have declared the support and recognition of the Palestinian people and Palestinian state. And when you really put it in terms of population, it's more than 90%. And this could not have happened without the kind of effort, the kind of knowledge, the kind of programs that you are sharing. So to a great extent, what you are asking us to do, you've already done and should do more. But precisely, what are you doing now that is in this? Have you done quite a bit in the past, but is there anything special that you're doing now that we can share with you, can spread the word, the knowledge, the news?
Thank you. I mean, a few weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, we were planting olive trees when the Israeli military came, kicked us out, and then brought the settlers who uprooted the olive trees we had just planted. We need international support. We need solidarity. We need joint struggle. Our struggles, by the way, are joint. Well, my struggles are the same as the struggles of Black Lives Matter or struggles of indigenous people in the US and so on. So we need certainly this joint struggle. What people can do, I have now 5 volunteers from 4 different countries that are with us today. Actually, they just went out for dinner as I'm doing this interview, this session. So, we get international volunteers. International volunteers are more than welcome to come here. We provide them with room and board, but they can also volunteer remotely if they want to, like doing research with us, doing advocacy with us, networking, boycott, divestment, sanctions. On my own website, by the way, which is qumsiyeh.org, right on the front page, there's a link for what you can do, what each one can do. And I have 75 things, I think, listed there.
Wow.
The reason for 75 is I was counting the number of years since the Nakba. Now it's 78, so I have to add 3 more. I haven't updated my website in a while, but I will add 3 more things. Not very hard to find out, to find 3 more activist things that people can do. So I can send you this link
Yeah.
to my page with what you can do, and you can share it if you want. But there are many, many things that people can do. And again, they don't have to go out of their way to act in areas that they're not comfortable with or that are outside of their interests. For example, if you despise politics and you don't want to do lobbies, then you can do something else. If you love politics and working with politicians and electing local council and city and municipal and eventually state legislators and federal legislators, and go work on that. If you are interested in boycott, divestment, sanctions, you can engage in that. If you are interested in farming, you can farm with us and produce food that helps feed our people. I have people from the refugee camp here come to our community garden, and you can come and help them, advise them, work with them in the garden. If you love educating children, just last week we had over 600 children here. In 2 days, 350, I think, actually more than 600. 350 on Thursday and 300 on Saturday last week. So these children, you can come and help us with these children programs. And now we are doing summer programs for children. This is also a form of therapy for children who are living in the Bethlehem ghetto where I am, and they need this kind of activity to help them cope with the very, very, very difficult situation that they live under. Israeli military coming into their refugee camps every few days to pluck some people, throw tear gas, arrest their parents, etc. I think there's so much that can be done, and I could go on the list, not just 78 items, as I said, but I can list hundreds of items of what people can do.
Yeah, perfect. Now, you were talking about some of your activities. Can I ask you specifically, what was your last publication and where is it and how can we get hold of it?
Good question. Actually, I got 2 papers just accepted. One that will appear in a book about environmental justice. The book is about environmental justice, and the paper is accepted, and it's titled Ecocide and Ecosumud, a case study of Palestine. Ecocide and Ecosumud, a case study from Palestine. I'm happy to share it because it's accepted and because it will appear in this book in a few months. I have another paper that was accepted also this week about ecocide also in Gaza, but this one is more specifically about Gaza. And it will appear in this week in Palestine, which is the best, in my humble opinion, the best magazine in English produced in Palestine, the top quality globally, in my humble opinion. This magazine already has like 200,000 readers. So I think it will be a very good article published in the June issue. So it will come out soon, and I can send you the link to it. But on our website, you can find our most recent publications and you can download the PDFs of those. For example, you can download the PDF of the study where we used remote sensing to show the destruction of the tree cover in Gaza and of the greenhouses in Gaza. And these can be found on the website of our institute, which is palestinenature.org, .org, Palestine Nature, one word, .org, under the research tab.
Well, that's absolutely great, and it would be nice if we will be able to get these the links to these publications, so we could ourselves. Most of us here on this program are professors, and we would be very happy to share this widely with our community, so they know what is going on. I mean, one of the major issues that you, I'm sure, have been subjected to is that our interlocutors, those who are really suppressing us, and the genocidal regime has been trying to completely eliminate and suppress the information and the knowledge that you people are working and exposing and researching and sharing. Now, are you optimistic about the future? There must have really been some major successes that you have really been able to achieve. I mean, I would really attribute some of the fantastic structural change in the international opinion, and particularly in North America, to a great extent to the kind of efforts and work and publications they've done. Are you optimistic about the future?
I'm very optimistic, and I'll explain why. But before that, I forgot to say something about research that is important, that you reminded me when you spoke about you being researchers. We would love to collaborate with researchers around the world. We have hundreds of ideas of research projects that we are short-staffed of people. And it's good for people to collaborate with us because they end up publishing in their field of interest. For example, with psychologists, I published 2 papers about mental colonization. One about mental colonization of us, the Palestinians, because we are part of our population is mentally colonized. And the second paper with another person who, an intern studying psychology, about the mental colonization of the colonizers, the oppressors, the Israelis. And this is very important to analyze, to study. An anthropologist came here and she was interested in anthropology, so I told her, you can study the change in knowledge of wild plants by our ancestors until today, how the change in knowledge, and she published a very good paper on this. And there are many fields, political geography, anthropology, psychology, law even. I just had a paper accepted on the futility of, not futility, but difficulty, I guess, of using law to protect Palestinian rights vis-a-vis the environmental issues, environmental laws and so forth. And that was done with a student who is studying law. So we can collaborate on research in different fields, and these all contribute to keeping the Palestine issue at the forefront of scientific and social science literature and legal literature, etc. So there are many ways we are willing to collaborate and happy to collaborate with people, even remotely. You don't have to come here to publish papers with us. We now publish, on average, by the way, 2 research papers every month. So, okay, so now back to the issue of optimism. Yes, we are very optimistic. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing what we are doing, of course. Now, don't misunderstand optimism for certainty of success. I can tell you I have no certainty of success. I can give you odds of success based on the variables that we see around us. As a scientist, I can give you rough ideas, and this can change from year to year. I'm more optimistic now than I was a year ago or 5 years ago. But this doesn't mean that I'm 100% sure that Palestine will be free and we will live comfortably and that the planet Earth will save itself from a global nuclear war and from the climate change catastrophe. I'm not certain of that. Actually, I'm very, very worried about that. But optimism in the sense of hope, certainly yes, and we all should have that. We should all work. Somebody, said one time in answer to a question, the question was, what would you do if you knew the world will end tomorrow? And he said, I will plant a tree. And I would say the same thing. If I knew the world was going to end tomorrow with a nuclear war pitting, Pakistan, China, Russia on one side, the US and NATO and Israel on the other side exchanging nuclear war, which could happen, by the way, here, not far stretched. I would still be doing exactly what I'm doing, teaching my children to plant trees, teaching them how to respect nature, respect each other, regardless of their religion or background, value human diversity and biological diversity. I would be doing exactly the same thing, even if I knew the world was going to end.
Let me ask you this. With your expertise and interest in environmental issues, climate change is definitely with us today. The effects are already being experienced. How, in your opinion, is climate change exacerbating the negative consequences and the incredible destructive programs the Israeli occupation is imposing on the people of Palestine?
Well, I would even flip the question around. And how is militarism contributing to climate change? For example, Israel actually produced more greenhouse gases just from jets flying to bomb Gaza and Lebanon. I was telling this to this Taiwanese journalist that was interviewing before this session was interviewing me. I was telling her that Israel produced just from jet fuel flying over Gaza to bomb Gaza and Lebanon, produced more greenhouse gases than Taiwan, which is a huge area, certainly much larger than us, 200 million people or so, I think. But anyways, produced in in the same period of time from all their sources, Taiwanese trains and airplanes and cars, automobiles and kitchens and industries, all of them produced less greenhouse gases than those jets that Israel was bombing Gaza with. And I'm not counting the fires or the residues or the pollution or anything else. War is a climate change issue, and war is accelerating, and the military is, of course, exempt from reporting their climate change effect or how much they use. It's actually classified. It's classified. But actually people can calculate it. And the Guardian newspaper, for example, hired some experts who calculate, because they know how many jets flew over Gaza, and they know the F-16, for example, how much it uses in gasoline, and that's how they calculated the calculation that I just gave you, basically. That's more than Taiwan. So it's possible to figure out these things. But yes, also these things are interconnected. It's not like you can deal with climate change away from dealing with colonialism or oppression or pollution or the bombs that Israel is dropping in Gaza, like white phosphorus and depleted uranium. These
Yeah.
are all interconnected issues because the perpetrators are the same people and
Yes.
the victims are nature and people. Nature and people. And you cannot separate people from nature. Sorry, you cannot have people survive without nature.
Absolutely.
Gaza is now pretty much unlivable. It's barely living, and not barely even. There are people in Gaza, as I mentioned earlier, who are dying from diseases. Mosquitoes and rats and mice are proliferating in Gaza because no hygiene, because no water, no systems of hygiene. And so environmental health is devastated in Gaza. These are all connected issues. And if we don't connect the dots, we're not going to be able to deal with fixing those issues.
Yeah. Yeah. There is one area that is very specific and very defining characteristic of our area, and that's water. And with climate change, with global warming, this water is going to be less available. And given what the Israelis have done and what they have diverted the Jordan River and what they are still planning and how they are siphoning some of our water that is collected under the West Bank and being used in Israel. How do you see the future of our ability to have enough water and enough food and enough agriculture? What's your prognosis?
Yeah. Well, let's first lay out the groundwork. We would not have a water shortage if we have water justice or water equality. There's
Exactly.
actually more rainfall in Ramallah than there is in London. I don't know if you know this. There's more rainfall falling on Ramallah than there is falling on London. The only difference is that our water falls on our regions, goes into the water aquifers. Israel controls the water aquifers, extracts the water aquifers, even throws out some of the water. When I mentioned earlier diversion of the water of the Jordan River basin from 1,350 million cubic meters per year flowing to only 20 million cubic meters per year flowing. What's the difference? The difference is 1,330 million cubic meters per year. Where are those going? They're not going because Israel uses them or because they need them. They diverted them specifically to deny us this water. And they throw some of it away. I would say about half of it is thrown away. And they use it for like having green gardens and green
A
lawns
swimming
of
pool.
the trees and swimming pools. And they even here in Beit Sahur, my shepherd's field, as I said, my village, which we get water in the summer rarely. You know, my sisters come to take showers every week, sometimes in the summer because there's no water. They come to my house. Why my house? Because I have a water cistern that I've collected rainwater. But anyway, we have barely enough water for our lives. Meanwhile, in Tkua here, the settlement that Avigdor Lieberman lives in, El David complex of settlements, they have actually, believe it or not, a water park. Literally a water park in the mountains here, which are called the Judean desert. It's not really Judean or a desert, by the way. It's a semi-arid region. It's not the best parts of Palestine. But anyway, they have a water park there while we go thirsty. This is water injustice or water apartheid. And this
I love
is what we have to realize that we are facing is not because of the lack of water, it's because water is stolen from us,
Yes.
deny us our living conditions. Israeli settlers use about 800 to 900 liters per settler per day, while Palestinians in the West Bank use about 80 liters. So it's 1/10 of the settlers,
1/10.
80 liters per person per day, which is less than the World Health Organization says is essential for survival, which
Survival.
is 100 liters per day
Okay. Yeah.
per person. And what is it in the Gaza Strip today as we speak, by the way? You would be shocked.
Yeah.
It's less than 5 liters per day
5
per
liters.
person.
Wow.
That's that they are getting. That's why they're going thirsty and dying of thirst and of diseases, because they can't clean themselves. Of course, they cannot wash themselves even with a wet towel, stuff like that.
And this is not factoring quality. We're talking about quantity, but the quality
Oh yeah,
of
that's an important point. I mean, the Gaza Strip, the water they are digging to withdraw from what's left of the
saline.
coastal water aquifer is saline water, not really suitable for drinking. They boil it and drink it nevertheless, but that's what they have, and they have to survive on that because Israel basically destroyed the water aquifer, the coastal water aquifer, by first removing the recharge for it. They don't allow the water that used to flow from the Hebron Mountains to Wadi Gaza and the other valleys in Gaza. And so the recharge of the aquifer was declined, but also overconsumption of that because the population in Gaza grew, of course, and 70% of the people in Gaza, as you know, are refugees, not people
Refugees.
who belong in Gaza. They belong in Ascalon and Jaffa and other Jaffa, other places that they were ethnically cleansed from. So 70% are refugees. So Gaza became a very crowded area. It's now actually even more crowded, even though there's estimates of 500,000 Gazan people who were killed or died as a result of this genocide. But the Gaza remaining population, estimated at 1.5 or 1.6 million Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, are now living on 40% of the Gaza Strip. 40%, 60% of the Gaza Strip was ethnically cleansed. Basically, Israel forces now control it and have pushed any Palestinians who's there is immediately targeted to be killed. It's called the Free Fire Zone, 60% of the area of Gaza.
Wow. Let me just move to a situation that is becoming very troubling to the world. And as you know, the ICC just 2 days ago issued arrest warrant for 5 top Israelis, a secret one, that they tried as much as possible to allow the international law to remain alive and effective, but had to basically issue a secret verdicts, but obligating every member country to the Rome agreement and the basis that saw the ICC become into existence. The issue here is the increased and overt and obnoxious regime that is governing Israel today. It's an extremist regime. It's extremist in its violation of international law, of human rights, of decency, of diplomacy. I mean, you only have to look a day or two ago the way they treated members, civilian members from Canada, especially like the Canadian people, Canadian government, are absolutely distressed at the way the Israeli have abducted these people in international water and have subjected them to a humiliation and unbelievable, unacceptable treatment that any Canadian who has seen it or American who has seen it, as his compatriots being treated in such a vile and unacceptable way. How are you coping with this extremist regime, and how is it likely to get even worse? And is there a chance of a major restructuring? There is an election coming. What's your prognosis? What's your view of how these things are going to transpire on the ground?
You know, I'm a biologist, a medical geneticist, and I used some of this knowledge in my studies of human conditions and evolution of societies, and I've become an amateur historian. As you mentioned, I published a few books, including like Sharing the Land of Canaan, Popular Resistance of Palestine. So the idea is, as an amateur historian, if you want, as somebody who read thousands of books about the history of evolution, of colonialism and so forth, I actually predicted the evolution of Israeli society. It doesn't take a genius to predict the evolution of Israeli society. Edward Said also wrote like a prophet, actually, much better than I am in terms of understanding where its direction is and how it's going. And it's obvious from the variables that you see where the direction is. You use the word extremist. I said in my book, Sharing the Land of Canaan, I expect Israel to evolve towards more fascist, more neo-Nazi-like ideologies, and for them to do horrors that nobody had expected. I wrote this in 2004. Here we are 22 years later. Predictions I made, and that Edward Said actually made earlier than me in the 1990s, are coming true. Why? It's not that we were prophets or anything. It's because you can understand the evolution of such societies, like South Africa under apartheid, the Soweto uprising and its suppression by shooting at unarmed civilians. That's expected and predictable in such racist and apartheid and genocidal and ethnic cleansing regimes that are founded on such ideologies like Zionism, like Christian nationalism, like Nazism, like Ku Klux Klan ideologies. All of them have concepts that you can understand how they lead to these things. Okay, so you asked, where do you see things going, right? Based on this analysis and these variables. Well, first of all, I must say that I personally, I predicted this trend, but I did not predict the level of horrors that I have seen. And none of us have predicted the levels of horrors that we have seen, for example, in Israeli jails happening today as we speak. There are Palestinians being tortured in Israeli jails without access to lawyers, raped sexually, even with dogs, raped with dogs. And this is well documented. It's not even, as I said, the Israelis documented it themselves. Yeah. And the Israeli even lawyer for the prison service was fired from her job because she showed the video of these guys raping this guy to a point where his intestines were damaged. They were raping him with a broomstick. His intestines were damaged for life. I don't know if he survived or not, but at least 80 prisoners that we know of. There may be hundreds that we don't know of because there are thousands of Palestinians missing. I repeat, there are thousands of Palestinians missing. We don't know where they are. Could be dead. Israel buries them in what they call the cemetery of numbers, which they have already. Israel admitted there are thousands of Palestinian bodies that are in their cemetery of numbers that they haven't returned to their relatives. So how many died? We know of at least 80 in the past 2.5 years only. 80 people who we know their names, including doctors and journalists, who were tortured to death.
Wow.
More than 60 of them, by the way, without ever seeing a judge or a lawyer. This is important, what they call administrative detentions. So we know this is happening, and I never predicted that they would stoop to all this level of brutality and the level of, of using thermobaric bombs. You know what thermobaric bombs? Thermobaric bombs are bombs that are invented by the United States that you can drop at an area. They produce a wave of heat of 1,000 or 2,000 degrees centigrades.
Wow.
And they basically, any organic material in the area, human bodies, become basically evaporated as ashes. You can find maybe some ashes around the body that's burned, but these are the thermobaric bombs in a radius of about 100 to 200 meters. And they drop them on tents of people. So there's no bodies to bury. There's no bodies to bury from these thermobaric bombs. Israel used them, the first country to use them. The US developed them but didn't use them yet. This I did not expect. I did not expect they would stoop to such level that they obliterate bodies by thermobaric bombs. Look it up. It's just sickening when you see it. When you actually, there are videos of these things also. This is what's bizarre about this genocide. What is unique about this genocide and ecocide, by the way? There's a lot of genocides and ecocides around the world happened in the past, including Native Americans, including Aborigines in Australia and the nature in Australia. What's unique about this? One of the unique features about this is that it's broadcast live and it's available on videotapes. We are in an era of internet. Nobody can claim, well, I didn't know about what the Belgian King Leopold did in Congo was genocide, cutting off hands of people and killing so many, 1 million people, they estimate. But anyways, people can say, well, I didn't know. How would I know? And this happened 150 years ago. Or what happened in Rwanda, or what happened in Armenia under genocide of the Armenians, People can claim they didn't know, or the Nazi genocide of gypsies and communists and Jews and others. Okay, you can say they didn't know. But now nobody can claim they don't know because it's right there in your face and it's online and people are recording even their own death live on the internet. That's one unique feature. The second unique feature is that this genocide is not being done by one country or one state, by the way. Congo genocide was done by King Leopold and the Belgian government. This is not done by Netanyahu and the Israeli government. This is done by a number of countries working together to commit this genocide. The British government, the American government, sorry to say the Canadian government, is direct participants in this genocide. Direct participants. And this is also unique in world history of genocides. The German genocides was done by the German governments, period, end of story. This is done by a number of governments in collusion, in collaboration to commit this genocide and this ecocide. And, these are unique features people have to realize.
I mean, Mazin, we're coming to the end of this program. We're very fortunate to hear from somebody on the ground, somebody that has a record of honorable record of protecting and defending human rights and working for justice and peace. Now, one thing you probably don't know is this program has very strong connection to two institutions that I happen to be involved in. One is TARI, which is the Trans-Arab Research Institute. I am now the current chair of the board, and what you're doing, guys, is absolutely fundamental, critical, and we should develop and cement a relationship that can benefit our people and give your group a backing from the other side of the continents and the oceans. The other one is I was just finished my stint as chair of the global footprint, as you know, ecological footprint. And given your work in this, so I am here, and I hope you take it in the best intention is to invite you to be part of both TARI and what we call FODAFO, the basic group of university here in Canada and in the US that is developing and measuring the ecological footprint and regenerative capacity. Where are the deficits between what nature can sustain and what we as people have abused and overused nature? So it would be great, and I hope you would accept our invitation to both to see how we can work.
I would be totally honored, and actually we need a separate meeting to discuss about collaboration, because we were thinking about also setting up here, and we could be a branch of you, a branch of TARI here, a branch of this group that you have for ecocide and other things globally, because I'm thinking of a revival center in Palestine that's not just merely a research and think tank, but also an action place. And we can develop these things, and we can even find funding. I have people willing to fund some of these things. So we would love to collaborate. We need to have a separate brainstorming meetings about how we can put our resources and your resources together. I have an email list, for example, of 55,000 people on it. And if any of your audience here want to join it, they can email me at info@palestinenature.org. Happy to add you to our email list, and we can collaborate and build. We need to build a global uprising for humanity. It's not for Palestine, by the way. Global Intifada is for humanity, because my interest is the interests of Canadians, the interests of Americans, interests of everybody.
This is fantastic. Mazin, on behalf of the Arabic Hour and all our colleagues, this has been a fantastic. We're very fortunate to have this discussion with you. We learned a lot, and to a great extent, some of the perspectives you shared with us are novel. They're really new that it would be great if we all work together, as you said, on a humanitarian basis. The environment does not distinguish between Palestinians and non-Palestinians. Mm-hmm. We are on this planet together, and we have the same destiny, and we share the same future, and we should work together towards clean environment, peace, and justice. And you are one of the major voices and people who have taken this objective further than anybody. Thank you, Mazin. It was great to have you here.
Thank you, my friend. Good luck. Thanks to